The room smelled of boiled wine and old stone and the bitter tang of poppy. It clung to the back of the throat, clung to the folds of the blankets, clung to him, as if the Red Keep meant to steep him the way it steeped its secrets. Slow, patient, and staining. His leg was a constant pulse, a slow hammer behind the splints, a reminder of the street and Jaime's grin and the sudden senseless crush of men. It would have been a cleaner hurt if it had come from steel and battle. There was no clean here. There was only rot dressed in silk. The parchment in his hand was heavier than it ought to have been. A thin thing, a few lines of black, a seal pressed into wax, and yet it weighed more than all the furs of Winterfell. The king's seal. The king's will. The king's last attempt at order. Outside, the castle woke in the uneasy way a place wakes after death. Servants moving too quickly. Guards holding their spears too tight. Footsteps echoing too loud along corridors that remembered too many screams. Somewhere below, bells had rung for the king's passing. Somewhere beyond the walls, a city of 500,000 already turned its head like a dog sniffing blood. He read the words again, though he had them by heart now. Protector, Doctor, Regent, until my son comes of age. He could still hear Robert's voice when he had dictated it, thick with wine and pain and stubborn pride. He could still see the way the king's hand had trembled as he pressed the seal. Robert, who had laughed at law and spat on politics, and yet, at the end, had reached for parchment as if parchment could hold the realm together when iron could not. My son. Ned's thumb traced the edge of the seal without thinking. The wax had cooled. It was firm beneath his skin. Robert had called the boy his son because he could not bear the alternative. Robert had died without knowing. No, he had known in some fashion. The truth had been in the way he had raged, in the way he had refused to look too closely at what stood before him. A king could conquer in war, and still be conquered by his own bed. Ned set the parchment down on the table as gently as if it might shatter. He stared at it as if it were a blade. The city was full of blades. Cersei would not yield. She had told him so, when he had been foolish enough to go to her in the Godswood. She had smiled as if she held the sun in her palm and dared him to snuff it. She had called him honorable like it was an insult. She had been right about one thing. Honor would not keep his daughters safe. And yet, honor had to mean something. The law had to mean something. Robert's seal had to mean something, or the realm was nothing but meat for wolves with crowns. He thought of Winterfell, of the cold and the clean, of the sound of snow underfoot. He thought of Catelyn's face when she had begged him not to go south. He thought of Bran's broken legs, of the boy's hands clutching at him as if he could pull him back from falling. He thought of Jon Arryn, dead and cold, and of a book with Baratheon bloodlines that had led him here like a trail of ashes. He thought of Stannis Baratheon, grim as a cliff, hard as iron, wronged and ignored and lawful as winter. Stannis would not charm the realm. He would not win it with smiles. But Stannis was the king, by every law the 7 kingdoms had ever named. His breath came slow and tight. The pain in his leg flared as if it disliked the idea of standing. He was tired of sitting. He was tired of waiting while others moved pieces around him. A knock sounded. "Enter," he called. The door opened. Tamard stepped in, the thick-necked captain of his guard. Eyes wary, hand resting on the hilt at his hip as if the Red Keep might leap at him. Behind him hovered Varys, soft-footed and smiling, his powdered face immaculate, his hands folded as if he carried a prayer. Varys did not wait to be invited. He drifted in like smoke. Ned's jaw tightened. If Varys had come, it meant the castle already knew he was awake. The castle always knew. "My lord," Tamard said, glancing at the parchment. "The castle's talking." "The king is dead," Ned said, saying it did not make it less a knife. "Aye." Varys's smile curved with practiced sympathy. "Such a tragedy. His grace was quite the presence." "He was my friend," Ned said flatly. "Of course," Varys murmured. And now as ever you find yourself burdened with the realm's troubles." Ned looked at him. "Why are you here?" Varys spread his hands. Rings winked in the brazier's low light. "To offer counsel, my lord. To whisper wisdom into the ear of a man who has never had much taste for whispers." Ned's mouth tasted of poppy and iron. "I've had enough of whispers. And yet," Varys said gently, "whispers have teeth. Sometimes they bite harder than swords." Ned shifted in his chair, wincing as pain lanced up his thigh. He forced himself to stillness. "Robert named me protector until his heir comes of age." "So he did," Varys said. "His heir is not his," Ned said. The words were bitter and clean. "You know it. Petyr knows it. Pycelle knows it. Half the court knows it." "No, he..." Varys's eyes flicked, a small movement, like a fish turning in dark water. "Knowledge is such a tricky thing in King's Landing. It leaks and it spills, and those who carry it often find their hands cut." Ned leaned forward. "Stannis is the rightful king." Varys's smile did not change, but something behind it tightened. "Stannis is... certain." "Certain," Ned echoed, and almost laughed at the thinness of it. "He's lawful." "Lawful," Varys agreed, as if tasting the word. "And will you raise him up with law alone?" Ned's fingers curled. "I will raise him with Robert's will." Varys had tilted. "And will you present this will to the Queen?" "I will present it to the realm," Ned said. Tomard's brows drew together. "To the realm, my lord." Ned pushed the parchment across the table, away from his own hands, as if it might burn him. "Cersei expects me to creep to her like a penitent and bargain for mercy. She expects me to hide this truth in letters and shadows, until she can twist it into something else. I won't give her that." Varys's gaze sharpened. "Bold. Honest," Ned corrected. "Honesty is a blade," Varys said softly. "And you are wounded." Ned's voice hardened. "Then I'll wield it before it's knocked from my hand." Tomard shifted his weight. "What would you have me do?" Ned's eyes went to the maps, to the Raven scrolls, to the table that had become his battlefield. "Send word to my men, all of them, Heward, Will, every Stark man in this castle. Arm them, bring them to the throne room." Tomard nodded once, grim, and turned to go. "And Tamar," Ned added. The man paused. "Send for Septa Mordain. Tell her to keep the girls close. Tell Arya?" He swallowed. "Arya was never close. Arya was wind. Tell her to stay where she is, if she can." Tamard's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Hey, my lord." He left. Varys remained. In the quiet that followed, the brazier hissed as sap in the logs popped. "You mean to speak in the throne room?" Varys said. "Yes." "And name Stannis Baratheon," Varys said, as if tasting the name before offering it. "Before the court." "Yes." Varys's fingers interlaced. "You will make enemies." "I already have them." "You will make chaos." "Chaos is here," Ned said. He gestured toward the stone walls, toward the unseen city beyond. "It's been here since I walked into this castle and smelled the rot." Varys' eyes softened, not with pity, but with something like regret. "You do not understand King's Landing." Ned met his gaze. "No, but I understand men. And I understand that if the truth is spoken aloud, it cannot be so easily strangled." Varys sighed, a small sound. "Sometimes a strangled truth still makes no sound at all." Ned's hand moved to the parchment again, as if compelled. "I'll make it scream." Varys watched him a long moment. Then the eunuch bowed his head. "Very well, my lord. I shall ensure that certain ears are present to hear your scream." He drifted toward the door. "Varys?" Ned called. Varys paused, turning. "If you mean to betray me," Ned said, "do it quickly. I have no patience for slow knives." Varys' smile returned, gentle as silk. "My lord, I serve the realm." Ned snorted. "So you say." "So I say," Varys echoed and slipped out. Ned was alone again with the will and the pain and the sense that the walls were leaning in. He looked down at Robert Seal. He thought of Stannis on Dragonstone, staring at the sea as if it had wronged him personally. He thought of Cersei, golden and cold. He thought of a boy on a throne with a lion's heart and a Baratheon name. He thought of Sansa's soft dreams and Arya's sharp defiance. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, the decision was no longer a decision. It was a road, and he was already on it. Cersei moved through the Red Keep as if it belonged to her bones. The castle was built on blood and betrayal, but it wore its history like a jeweled collar, and she wore it with it. Servants bowed too low, too quickly as she passed. They did not meet her eyes. They had learned. Everyone learned sooner or later that looking too long at a lion only gave it time to decide whether to bite. The messenger's whisper was quick and careful, like someone stepping around broken glass. "The hand has called for the throne room, Your Grace. The council. The guards. Even what?" Cersei asked, her voice smooth. The man swallowed. "Even men of the faith, Your Grace. A septon from the Great Sept has been asked to attend." Her fingers tightened on the goblet. Gold bit into her skin. "And who asked this?" "The Hand, Your Grace. Lord Stark." Stark. She tasted the name like sour wine. He was stubborn. He was injured. He was a northern fool who thought that words could build walls higher than swords. And yet, he had been dangerous from the moment he arrived. Not because he was clever like Tyrion or ruthless like Tywin, but because he believed in things. A man who believed in things could be bent, but not easily broken, and when he broke, he did it loudly. She had expected him to come crawling, as men always did when they realized the game was not played by their rules. She had expected panic behind his stern face, bargaining behind his honor. But a septon? Witnesses. He was changing the shape of the board. Cersei's mind moved faster than her feet. If Stark spoke publicly, if he dared say those words aloud. No, he would not. He was too cautious, too slow. He would try to do this properly. Like everything else he did, he would try to make the realm agree. And while he tried, she would take his tongue. She turned, skirts whispering like snakes. "Send for my son." The knight blinked. "Your Grace, the prince is..." "The king," Cersei corrected sharply, and the word was a whip. "Send for the king." The man bowed and hurried away. Cersei continued toward the tower, where the throne room waited like a mouth. Her steps were steady. Her heartbeat was not. Jaime should have been here. Jaime should have been at her side, his white cloak a promise, his sword a certainty. But Jaime had ridden off into the Riverlands, chasing his pride, chasing Stark's blood, leaving her to hold this city with only words and men who bowed too easily. She had men. She had gold. She had the City Watch, bought and paid for. She had the King's Guard, though some of them were old enough to remember honor. She had Pycelle, who would drool and nod. She had Pedder, who would smile and sell his own shadow if it turned a profit. And she had her children. Joffrey would rage. He would want to cut. He would want to prove himself. He was Robert's in that way, though the thought made her stomach twist. Joffrey's cruelty was not Robert's bluster. It was something colder, something truer to the lion. But she could guide cruelty. She could point it like a spear. She reached a landing where a carved stone lion crouched, its jaws open in a silent roar. Cersei paused, placing her hand on the cold stone as if drawing strength from it. "Let him speak," she murmured, so softly the guards would not hear. "Let him hang himself with his own words." She pushed on. The throne room was never truly quiet. Even when empty, it held echoes like ghosts. Now it swelled with the sound of whispers, the shuffle of velvet, the clink of chains and rings. Courtiers gathered in clusters, like birds before a storm, heads turning, eyes sharp. They smelled blood. They always did. At the base of the Iron Throne, Sir Barristan Selmy stood as still as the swords behind him. His white cloak fell straight, unwrinkled, a piece of snow in a room of firelight. His face was carved by years and duty, his eyes the pale, watchful blue of a winter sky. He had served kings. He had seen the realm shift beneath crowns like sand. To one side, Grand Maester Pycelle hunched, his chain heavy across his chest, his beard trembling slightly as if even his hair feared the moment. Petty Baelish leaned nearby, almost relaxed, his smile a small curve that said he enjoyed this far too much. Varys stood with hands folded, his gaze sliding across faces as if counting coins. Renly Baratheon had arrived with a flourish and a grin, green velvet and gold embroidery, bright as spring in a room that felt like autumn. He lounged as if the Iron Throne were a stage built for his amusement, as if the death of his brother was merely another turn of the game. Ned came in on a cane, supported by sheer will and the hard hands of two of his men. He felt every step like a hammer. The splints held, but pain licked up his leg with each movement, eager as a dog. The room quieted as he approached. Not silence. Never silence, but a drawing in of breath, a tightening of the air, a collective leaning forward. He saw faces he recognized. Lords who had feasted at Robert's table, knights who had worn smiles like masks. He saw faces he did not, minor nobles eager to witness history, priests of the faith with 7-pointed stars sewn onto their robes. Witnesses? Good. Ned stopped before the throne's jagged shadow. He did not look up at it. He refused to give it that power. Instead, he looked at the people. "This is not a courtly gathering," he said, voice carrying in the stone room. "The king is dead." A ripple ran through the crowd, though everyone already knew. Hearing it spoken aloud made it real. In his final hours, Ned continued, His Grace Robert Baratheon named a protector of the realm to rule until his lawful heir comes of age. He held up the parchment, the seal catching the light. The wax gleamed, red and dark as fresh blood. Pycelle shifted, eyes widening. Pedder's smile deepened. Varys' head tilted. Barristan's gaze fixed on the seal, and something in his face tightened. Respect, perhaps, or grief. Ned heard footsteps behind him. The doors at the far end opened, and Cersei Lannister entered like a knife sliding into a sheath. Beside her walked Joffrey Baratheon, his hair bright, his face already twisted with impatience, as if annoyed the world had not waited for him. The room bowed. The motion was automatic, like a tide. Ned did not bow. Cersei's eyes met his. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but the two of them, and the space between. A space filled with dead men's secrets. Then her mouth curved. Not quite a smile. "My Lord Stark," she said sweetly. "You have summoned the court at such a delicate time." Ned's grip tightened on the parchment. "I summon those who must hear the king's will." Joffrey stepped forward, chin lifted. "My mother says you're to swear fealty," he announced, loud and shrill. "You're to bend the knee. Now." The boy's voice echoed off stone and steel. Ned tasted bile. "My lord," Barristan said quietly, almost to himself. "The will." Ned turned slightly so all could see the seal. "This is the king's will, sealed with his own hand. It names me protector until his lawful heir takes the throne." Cersei's gaze flicked to the parchment, then away, as if she refused to give it weight. "Of course," she said. "And the heir is my son." Ned's voice did not waver. "The heir is not your son." The room sucked in breath like a single creature. Whispers flared, then stilled. Even the torches seemed to lean. Joffrey's face flushed. "What did you say?" Ned lifted the parchment higher. "Robert's true heir is his brother. Stannis Baratheon is the lawful king of Westeros." For a moment, the words hung in the air, absurd and inevitable all at once. Then the room exploded into noise. "Stannis? Robert's brother? Treason! Incest! Seven save us!" Cersei's smile vanished. Her face hardened into something marble. Joffrey's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, rage building like heat behind his teeth. Petir's eyes glittered. Varys' hands remained folded, but his gaze sharpened, watching the crowd's reaction like a man watching the wind to predict a storm. Renly laughed, a quick bark, as if Ned had told a particularly bold joke. "Oh, this is delightful," he murmured, too softly for most to hear. But Ned saw the flash of annoyance beneath the amusement. Barristan stepped forward, one hand lifting slightly, a gesture of restraint. "My lords," he began, "we must." Cersei cut him off. "You will not speak," she snapped, not even looking at him. Her eyes were on Ned, and in them was pure hatred. "You will not poison this court with lies." Ned's voice rang. "These are not lies. The children are not Roberts. They are Jaime Lannisters." The name hit like a thrown stone. A few gasps. A few murmurs of disbelief. A few faces that tightened with sudden recognition. Cersei's cheeks flushed, a dangerous color beneath her pale skin. "You dare," she hissed. "I dare speak the truth," Ned said. "And I dare speak it here before witnesses, because the realm deserves law, not..." "Enough!" Joffrey shrieked. His voice cracked on the word, adolescent fury spilling out. "My mother! Kill him!" Cersei's hand shot out, palm pressing against Joffrey's chest, holding him back with effortless authority. She did not look at her son. Her gaze never left Ned. "You have made a grave mistake," she said low. Ned stared back, steady as he could be while pain throbbed through his leg. "No. Duh. I have made your grave mistake impossible to hide." "Nerdchai." For the first time, Cersei looked around the room, at the lords murmuring, at the septons staring, at the gold cloaks lining the sides. She measured them the way a butcher measured meat. Then she lifted her chin. "Seize him," she commanded. The gold cloaks hesitated. It was only a heartbeat, only a fraction of a moment, but Ned felt it like a door cracking open. His words had landed. His truth had taken root. In that pause, law lived. Then a voice cut through, smooth as oil. "The Queen speaks with the King's authority," Petyr said lightly, stepping forward with that familiar half-smile. "The hand has overstepped." Ned's stomach dropped. Cold and sudden, as if he'd stepped into snowmelt. He turned his head, eyes narrowing. Petyr met his gaze and gave a tiny shrug, almost apologetic. The gold cloaks moved. Steel whispered free. Ned's men surged forward instinctively, forming around him, hands on hilts. The court recoiled, silk and velvet scattering like frightened birds. Barristan's hand went to his sword, then stopped. Duty warred on his face. He looked at the Iron Throne, then at the boy who called himself king, then at the seal in Ned's hand. The moment tore. Ned's world narrowed to the scrape of boots on stone and the sound of his own breath. The gold cloaks came in a line, spears angled, faces set. Janos Slynt was not among them. If he was here, he watched from some shadow. The men moving now were soldiers obeying a command they could not afford to question. "Heward," Ned said sharply, not turning his head. "Hold." His man grunted. Steel gleamed in his fist. "Lord Stark," Pycelle whimpered, voice cracking. "This is madness." "Silence," Cersei said. The Septon stood frozen, hands clenched around his star, eyes wide as if he had stepped into a tale from the Stranger's Book. He had come for a dead king's blessing. He was watching another king be named in blood. Ned lifted the parchment again, high. "Hear me!" he shouted over the rising chaos. "The king's seal, Robert's seal, names Stannis Baratheon, the lawful king." The words rang. A few in the crowd echoed them, half in disbelief, half in excitement. "Stannis," someone murmured. "Lawful." Joffrey lunged forward, trying to push past his mother. "Stop him!" he screamed. "Make him stop!" Cersei's hand snapped up, fingers tight around her son's shoulder, holding him like a leash. Her gaze was steady, murderous. "You will be quiet," she hissed to him. Then louder to the guards. "Take him. Now." The gold cloaks surged. Ned's men met them. There was no graceful dance, no chivalric flourish. It was a brutal crush of bodies and steel in a room meant for ceremony. Spears jabbed. Swords clanged. A man screamed as a blade found his belly, and blood splashed bright against pale stone. Ned tried to move, tried to step back, but his leg betrayed him. Pain flared so sharp he saw white. He stumbled, cane slipping. Someone grabbed his arm. Weil, face twisted with effort, pulling him upright. "Stay on your feet, m'lord," Will grunted. Ned clenched his jaw, forcing the world to steady. He held the parchment in one hand, his cane in the other, useless against spears. His heart thundered. He had wanted law. He had gotten steel. Barristan took a step forward. "Hold!" he called, voice carrying like a command on a battlefield. In the name of the king," Cersei snapped, eyes flashing. "Stand down." Barristan froze. The word king hung heavy between them. He looked at Joffrey's flushed face, at Cersei's cold certainty. He looked at the Iron Throne. He lowered his hand. Something in Ned twisted, a cold anger deeper than pain. Barristan's duty was a chain, and chains could strangle as easily as bind. Petyr moved closer, careful to keep his boots clear of blood. "My lord," he said, voice almost kindly. "This is really quite unnecessary." Ned stared at him. "You told me you had the watch." Petyr's smile faltered for the first time, just a flicker. "I have the watch," he said softly. "Just not for you." Ned's throat tightened. The betrayal was not a surprise. He had known Petyr was slippery, a man of coin and whispers, but he had hoped. He had hoped like a fool. A gold cloak slammed his spear butt into Howard's chest, knocking him back. Another drove a blade into Will's side. Will gasped, blood spilling, but he stayed on his feet long enough to shove Ned backward, away from the spear's point. "Run," Will rasped, eyes wild. Ned could not run. Not on this leg. Nah. This room. He raised the parchment again, stubborn as a northern wall. "Stannis is king," he shouted, voice raw. A spear jabbed toward him. Tamar barreled in, catching the shaft with both hands, wrenching it aside. "Back!" he roared, swinging his sword. The blade caught a gold cloak across the face. The man fell, screaming, hands to his eyes. The throne room became a slaughterhouse. Courtiers fled toward the doors, tripping over each other. The Septon stumbled backward, whispering prayers. Pycelle clutched at his chain as if it might protect him. Varys watched, expression unreadable, eyes glittering with the knowledge that this was history, and history did not care who bled. Ned felt a hand clamp onto his shoulder. A gold cloak, breath hot, face close. "By order of the king," the man snarled. Ned swung his cane blindly, striking the man's jaw. The cloak staggered, spitting blood. Another spear jabbed, catching Ned's cane, knocking it away. He grabbed for balance and found only air. He fell. The floor came up hard. Pain exploded in his leg, and the world narrowed to a roar. He tasted blood, his own from biting his tongue. Above him, shadows moved, steel flashed. He forced himself to lift his head. Cersei stood at the edge of the chaos like a queen in a painting, untouched, her hands folded, her face calm. Joffrey beside her looked furious and delighted, eyes bright. Petyr stood a step behind them, watching Ned as one might watch a piece being removed from a board. Ned's breath came harsh. He raised the parchment with a trembling hand, holding it up from the floor like a fallen standard. Cersei's gaze flicked to it, and for the first time there was something like fear in her eyes. Not fear of Ned, but fear of the thing he held. She stepped forward, skirts brushing the blood-streaked stone. She bent, grasped the parchment between two fingers, and tore it in half. The sound was small, almost nothing. And yet it cracked through Ned like a bone breaking. She held the torn pieces up for him to see, her smile returning, sharp as glass. "There," she said softly. "Now it is no more than paper." Ned's hand closed on empty air, but the room had heard him. The room had seen the seal. The room had watched her tear it. Witnesses carried truth in their eyes even when parchment burned. Ned looked up at her, face streaked with sweat and blood. "You can tear paper," he rasped. "You can't tear blood." Cersei's smile vanished again. She straightened. "Take him," she said, cold. "Bind him. Put him in a cell. If any man speaks of what was said here today, cut out his tongue." The gold cloaks grabbed Ned under the arms, hauling him up. His legs screamed. He bit down, refusing to cry out. As they dragged him away, Ned twisted his head, searching the crowd. He found the Septon, still staring, face pale. He found a young lord with a hawk pin, eyes wide, lips moving as if repeating the name Stannis under his breath. He found Barristan, standing stiff, his jaw clenched so hard it trembled. Ned met Barristan's eyes. For a heartbeat, the old knight looked like he might speak. Then he looked away. Ned was dragged toward the doors, leaving blood behind like a trail. And behind him, in a room of steel and lies, the truth hung in the air, torn but not dead. The air grew colder as they went down, not the honest cold of the north, but a damp chill that clung like sweat. The torches smoked, their flames weak against the stone's hunger. Ned's wrists burned where rope cut into skin. Each step down was a jolt of agony through his leg. He clenched his teeth, tasting copper, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a cry. A gold cloak shoved him forward. "Move," the man growled. Ned stumbled, nearly falling. His shoulders slammed into the wall. Stone scraped his cheek. He forced himself upright again, breathing hard. Behind them, above, the throne room's noise faded, shouts, clanging steel. The rising and falling roar of a crowd startled into panic. It became distant, like thunder heard across hills. Ned's mind stayed in that room, though his body was dragged away. He saw again the seal, red wax gleaming. He saw again Cersei's fingers tearing it. He saw again the pause. Those brief, precious heartbeats when the gold cloaks hesitated because law had stood before them and demanded respect. That pause was what mattered. It meant the realm had heard. It meant the lie had cracked. "Stannis," Ned whispered. "The name a prayer and a curse." A gold cloak laughed. "Talking to yourself, Lord." Ned lifted his head, eyes hard. "Talking to the realm," he said, and spat blood onto the steps. The man's laughter died. He jerked Ned's rope, yanking his hands higher. Pain flared. Ned swayed but did not bend. They reached a heavy door bound in iron. One of the guards pulled a ring of keys from his belt, fumbling, then found the right one. The lock turned with a wet sound. The door opened into darkness that smelled of piss and mold. Ned was shoved inside. The cell was small. The floor was dirt packed hard, damp to the touch. Straw lay in a corner, old and foul. A bucket sat beside it, already half full. The only light came from the torch outside, spilling a thin slice through the bars. The gold cloaks tied Ned's hands to a ring in the wall, forcing him to sit with his arms pulled back awkwardly. Rope bit deeper. He could feel blood warm on his wrists. "Sleep well," one guard sneered. The door slammed. The lock turned. Ned sat in the dark, breathing slow. For a moment, he let himself feel it. The exhaustion, the pain, the grief, the helplessness of being caged like an animal. He thought of Robert, dead in his bed, eyes dull. He thought of Lyanna, dead in hers, blood on the sheets. The same story, again and again. Those he loved ended in stillness, and he remained, forced to carry what they left behind. He closed his eyes. In the darkness, he heard water dripping, steady as a heartbeat. Somewhere far above, a faint sound. A bell, perhaps, or a distant shout. The castle still moved, still breathed, indifferent. Ned opened his eyes again, staring into the thin strip of light. He had spoken. He had named Stannis before the court. That could not be undone. Even if he died here, the words would crawl through King's Landing like rats through walls, gnawing at the lie until it collapsed. Unless they killed the witnesses. Unless they killed everyone who had heard. Cersei might try. Cersei might burn the whole city to keep her children on that throne. Ned's stomach twisted. His daughters. Sansa would be in the castle, perhaps already trapped. Arya might run, might hide, might slip through cracks like the wolf she was. But Sansa dreamed of queens and songs. Sansa would not understand until it was too late. He tugged at the rope, testing. It was tight. His wrists ached. He leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes again. He pictured a cold black sea and a bleak island called Dragonstone. He pictured Stannis reading a letter, jaw tightening, eyes narrowing. He pictured ships gathering, sails snapping in wind. Come, Ned thought fiercely. Come and take what is yours. Sansa had always thought castles were made for safety. Walls meant protection. Towers meant distance from danger. She had come south believing stone could keep out the world's ugliness. The Red Keep had taught her otherwise. She stood at the window, fingers pressed to the cool glass, watching the courtyard below. Men moved with too much purpose. Gold cloaks in lines, red cloaks of Lannister guards, a knot of them near the gate arguing, gesturing. The air seemed to vibrate with tension, even this high up. Septa Mordane stood behind her, gripping her arms so tightly her nails bit. "Don't look," the Septa whispered. "Don't look, child." But Sansa couldn't stop. Her heart hammered. Somewhere in the castle, her father was. Her father had been summoned, had gone to the throne room, and then there had been shouting. The sound had carried up like thunder, muffled through stone, but real enough to make the servants pale. "Where is he?" Sansa asked. Voice small. The Septa swallowed. "He is with the council, my lady. Things are unsettled." Unsettled. A soft word for a hard thing. Sansa turned from the window, eyes searching the room as if an answer might be hidden in embroidery. Her jeweled hairnet lay on the table, bright and mocking. She had worn it to please the queen. She had worn it because she wanted to be good, wanted to be loved, wanted to belong. Now it looked like a chain. "There were screams," Sansa said. She hated the way her voice shook. "I heard them." The Septa's grip tightened. "Hush." Sansa's gaze darted to the door. "Where is Arya?" "Arya is..." Septa Mordane's mouth tightened. "Arya is missing as usual." Sansa's throat closed. Missing. In this castle, missing was not a childish annoyance. It was a blade hidden behind a smile. She walked to the table and picked up a half-finished letter, one she had begun to write to her mother, full of polite words about court and dresses and how kind the queen had been. Her own handwriting stared back, neat and blind. Her fingers crumpled the parchment. Septa Mordane gasped. "My lady!" Sansa didn't answer. Her eyes burned. She wanted to cry. She wanted to be brave. She wanted her father's steady voice, telling her it would be all right. Footsteps sounded outside, heavy, hurried. The handle rattled. Septa Mordane moved between Sansa and the door like a shield made of lace. "Who is it?" she demanded. A man's voice answered, sharp. "By order of the queen. Open." Sansa's breath caught. The queen. Not the king. Not the hand. The queen. Septa Mordane hesitated only a heartbeat before moving to the door. She opened it just enough to see. A Lannister guardsman stood there, red cloak draped over his shoulders, eyes cold. 2 gold cloaks flanked him. "Lady Sansa," the guardsman said, voice polite in the way a knife was polite. "You are to come with us." Sansa's mouth went dry. Why? The guardsman's smile was thin. The Queen wishes to keep you safe. Safe. The word landed like a lie. Septa Mordane's voice rose, shrill. This is improper. The girl is... The guardsman cut her off. The Queen's command, he said, and the gold cloak stepped forward, hands on hilts. Sansa's legs felt weak. She looked past them down the hall, hoping to see her father, to see someone she knew, to see anything that made sense. She saw only stone and shadows. Septa Mordane's fingers dug into her arm. Do as they say, the Septa whispered, voice trembling now. Do as they say and pray. Sansa swallowed. Her throat hurt. She forced herself to lift her chin, the way the Queen did, the way queens in songs did when they faced dragons. I will come, she said, though her voice nearly broke. The guardsman nodded, satisfied, and stepped aside. As Sansa walked into the corridor, she glanced back once at the room. The curtains, the embroidery, the hairnet on the table like a jewel in a trap. Then the door shut behind her with a sound like a coffin closing. Arya had always hated being trapped inside. Even Winterfell's walls had felt too close sometimes. Here, in the Red Keep, the walls were a maze designed by people who liked secrets more than air. She ran anyway. Her breath burned. Her feet slapped stone. Her heart was a drum in her ears. She tasted fear and fury, a hot mix that made her faster. She had been in the yard when it started, when the shouting rolled out from somewhere high, echoing down corridors, carrying words she couldn't quite make out. Servants had paused, eyes wide. Guards had begun moving, sudden and sharp, like dogs hearing a whistle. Then she had seen gold cloaks running, and she had seen her father's man, Heward, stumbling out of a side door with blood on his sleeve and terror on his face. Arya didn't wait to ask questions. In King's Landing, questions got you noticed. She ducked into the first servant's passage she found, squeezing through a door half hidden by tapestry. She had done it before, exploring, learning the castle's bones the way she learned the bones of a sword. Syrio had told her, quick as a snake, silent as a shadow. Now she needed both. A servant girl came racing toward her, eyes wide, tray wobbling. Arya flattened herself against the wall, holding her breath. The girl didn't even see her. She flew past like a frightened bird and vanished down another passage. Arya crept forward, dagger tucked close. It wasn't Needle. Needle was in her room because Septa Mordane had tried to take it away and Arya had hidden it badly. This dagger was small, stolen from a kitchen table. More like a toothpick than a sword. But it was steel, and steel was comfort. She reached a junction where the passage split. Voices echoed faintly. Men's voices. Harsh. Arya pressed herself against the stone, peering around the corner. Gold cloaks. Two of them, helmets on, spears in hand, walking fast. Queen says the wolf's cubs are to be held, one muttered. Hey, the other said. And if we see the little one, we take her too. Arya's stomach clenched. Wolf's cubs. That was them. That was her and Sansa. They were hunting her. She waited until their footsteps faded, then slipped the other way, moving like Syrio had taught her, light on her feet, body low, eyes scanning. She needed to find someone. Anyone. Her father's men. Yoren, the black brother she'd seen near the gates. The stable boy she'd bribed once. Someone who could get her out. But first, Sansa. Arya's mind flashed with her sister's face, soft and hopeful. Sansa wouldn't run. Sansa would think the Queen meant safety. Sansa would step right into a cage and smile. Arya's throat tightened with sudden fierce love and irritation. She wanted to shake her sister. She wanted to save her. A sudden clang echoed behind her. Metal on metal, distant. Another shout. The castle felt like it was waking into violence. Arya ran again, faster, weaving through the passageways she knew. She climbed a narrow stair, emerging into a corridor lined with torchlight. For a heartbeat, she thought she was alone. Then a door opened down the hall. A man stepped out in red, cloak swinging. His eyes flicked and found her instantly. Arya froze. The man's mouth opened. There? Arya bolted. She darted back into the stairwell, nearly slipping. Behind her, boots thundered. "Stop!" the man shouted. "Get her!" Arya's lungs screamed, but she ran harder. Down, down, down into the castle's belly. She knew these stairs, these twists. She had gotten lost here once and cried until a cook found her. Now she used that memory like a map. She burst into a kitchen, heat slapping her face. Cooks shouted. A pot boiled over. Arya slammed into a table, knocking bread to the floor, then scrambled under it, rolling like a little animal. A gold cloak charged in, spear raised, scanning. "Girl!" he barked. Arya held her breath, pressing herself into shadow. The dagger trembled in her fist. The gold cloak stepped closer. A cook hurled a ladle at his head. "Get out!" she screamed. "This ain't your yard." The gold cloak swore, ducking, distracted. Arya took the moment and slipped out the back door, sprinting into another passage. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break ribs. She didn't know where her father was. She didn't know what he had done. But she knew one thing. Sharp and clear as ice. They were afraid. And if they were afraid, her father had struck true. On Dragonstone, the sea never stopped speaking. It hissed against rock. It moaned in the wind. It crashed like anger. The island's stones were black and sharp, as if the land itself had been forged in a furnace and cooled in salt. Stannis Baratheon stood in a chamber that felt carved rather than built. The walls shaped into dragon jaws and scales, the shadows deep as caves. He did not sit. He rarely sat when there was a wrong to be held upright. The raven's message lay open on the table, the ink stark against parchment. The bird watched him, head cocked, as if curious whether men always went still when words arrived. Davos Seaworthy stood nearby, hands clasped behind his back, his simple clothes out of place in a castle that had once belonged to dragon lords. His eyes moved between Stannis and the letter, wary. Stannis stared at the parchment as if it were an enemy. "He did it," Stannis said at last. His voice was low, rough, like stone grinding. He spoke it aloud. Davos shifted. "Lord Stark." Stannis' mouth tightened. "Eddard Stark," he said, and there was a strange note in his voice, something like respect, grudging and reluctant. "He named me king in the throne room, before the court." Davos blinked. "7 save us." Stannis' eyes were hard, fixed. "The queen had him seized," Stannis continued, as if reciting a list of offenses. "There was blood. The letter says the will was torn." Davos swallowed. Then the realm has heard," Stannis snapped, cutting him off. "It has heard, and it has seen, and it cannot pretend ignorance." He turned to the window, staring out at the gray sea. His face looked carved from the same black stone as the walls. "Robert is dead," he said, and his voice did not crack, but something inside it did. "And now the lions sit my brother's throne with bastard cubs, and Stark bleeds for naming me what I should have been from the start." Davos stepped closer, cautious. "My lord, what will you do?" Stannis' hands clenched, then unclenched. He did not look at Davos. "What will I do?" he repeated, and there was iron in the question. "I will take what is mine." The wind outside howled, rattling the window. Davos hesitated, then said quietly, "The realm will not come easy." Stannis turned, eyes like flint. "The realm has never come easy," he said. "It is full of men who love comfort more than law. It is full of lords who would rather kneel to gold than to justice." Davos held his gaze, and yet Stark dared speak. "That counts for something." Stannis stared at him, and for a moment Davos wondered if he had overstepped. Stannis did not like praise that sounded like softness. He liked truth, sharp and hard. At last, Stannis said, "It does." He moved back to the table, snatching up the letter, reading the lines again as if looking for hidden traps. He wrote that the faith was present, Stannis muttered. A septon, lords, witnesses. Davos' mind raced. Then there will be talk, he said. In King's Landing. In every tavern. There will be fear, Stannis corrected. Davos nodded slowly. Fear. Stannis' fingers drummed once on the table, an impatient sound. Send ravens, he ordered. To Storm's End. To every lord of the Stormlands who ever bent knee to Robert. Tell them their king calls. No. Davos didn't move yet. And Renly? He asked, careful. Stannis' jaw tightened. Renly will do what Renly always does, he said coldly. He will smile and preen and pretend the crown fits his pretty head. Davos exhaled. Some might follow him. Some will follow any man who promises feasts, Stannis said. But law is on my side now. Stark has nailed it to the throne room floor with his own blood. He leaned closer to the raven, as if the bird might understand. Tell me, Stannis said, voice low. Did Robert ever once think of me? When he sat that throne? When he drank and whored and laughed? Nah. Nah. Davos' throat tightened. He had no answer that would not wound. Stannis' eyes flicked to him sharp. Don't lie. Davos bowed his head slightly. No, my lord, he said. Not often. Stannis' mouth twisted, bitter. And yet I will mourn him, he said, almost like a confession. Because he was my brother. He straightened. But I will not mourn the throne he left to bastards. Davos nodded. Then we sail. Stannis' gaze turned to the sea again. We gather, he said. We summon, we prepare. And then, his voice sharpened. Then we bring fire and law to a city of lies. Davos felt the weight of it settle. War, a different war than Robert's. Not for love or rebellion, but for legitimacy. For bloodlines written in old books and sealed in wax. And somewhere in the heart of the enemy's city, a man sat in a cell because he had spoken that legitimacy aloud. Davos looked at Stannis and thought, grimly, Stark's courage might become the realm's spark, or its funeral pyre. The solar smelled of wine and wax and anger. The torn scraps of parchment lay on the table like dead leaves. Cersei stared at them as if they were insects she wanted to crush again just to be sure. Joffrey paced, boots scuffing the floor, hands clenched. I want his head, he snapped, voice high. I want it on a spike. He called me a bastard in front of everyone. Cersei did not look at him. She did not need to. She could feel his rage like heat behind her. You will have what you want, she said, voice controlled. In time. In time, Joffrey mocked. He slammed a fist against the table, making the wine cup jump. No! Petyr Baelish poured more wine, unbothered. Time, he said lightly, is often the difference between a victory and a catastrophe. Joffrey rounded on him. You telling me what to do? Petyr smiled, soothing. Never, he said. Only advising. A king's ears are valuable things. One should be careful what one lets into them. Cersei's eyes flicked up at Petyr, green and sharp. Stark's words are out, she said. You heard the room. You saw the Septon's face. Varys spoke softly from his corner. The city will chatter, he murmured. It always does. Today it will chatter faster. Cersei's fingers tightened on the edge of the table. We must smother it. Petyr sipped his wine. A rumor is hard to smother, he said. It's like smoke. The more you wave your hands at it, the more it spreads. Cersei's gaze hardened. Then we turn it. We make Stark the liar. We make him the traitor. Joffrey stopped pacing, eyes bright. Yes, he said eagerly. Treason. He tried to steal my throne. Cersei leaned forward. Exactly, she said. He named another king. He named Stannis. That is treason. No, Bedao. Varys's hands remained folded. Stannis Baratheon is not without supporters, he said carefully. And the North? The North is far, Cersei snapped. The North is slow. They will howl. But they will not reach us before we have finished this. Peddar's eyes glittered. And Renly? He asked, tone casual. Cersei's jaw tightened. Renly is a peacock, she said. He will preen until someone plucks him. Joffrey snorted. If he tries anything, I'll kill him too. Cersei's gaze snapped to her son. You will do nothing without me, she said sharply. Joffrey bristled, but he did not argue. Not yet. He still needed her. He still feared her, though he would never admit it. Cersei turned back to the map. King's Landing spread beneath her fingers. Flea Bottom. The Hill of Rhaenys, the gates, the river. A city that could be held by gold and fear. Stark's daughters, she said quietly. Peddar's smile widened almost imperceptibly. Already being handled, he said. Sansa is secured. Arya. He shrugged. A smaller problem. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Find her, she said. If she's loose, she's a blade. And Stark is the kind of man who would die for his children. That makes him dangerous, even in chains. Nah. Varys's voice was soft. My little birds are searching. Cersei did not like the way he said it, as if the birds were his and not hers. She did not like how calm he remained, as if he were watching a play he had already read. And Stark himself? Petyr asked, setting down his cup. What will you do with him? Cersei stared at the torn parchment again. A part of her wanted to kill him immediately, just to silence the taste of his words. But another part, the part that understood power better than rage, knew that killing him too quickly might make him bigger. He would become a martyr, a northern lord who spoke truth and died for it. The realm loves stories like that. We keep him alive, Cersei said at last. Joffrey's head snapped up. What? Cersei's voice was cold. We keep him alive, she repeated, slower, as if speaking to a child. For now, we make him confess. We make him say he lied. We make him beg for mercy. We make the realm watch him crawl. Joffrey's lip curled. And if he won't? Cersei's eyes were flat. Then he dies, she said. But he dies on our terms when it serves us. Peddar's smile returned, pleased. A confession would be useful. Varys hummed softly. Useful, he echoed, though his expression said nothing. Joffrey paced again, restless. I hate him, he said. Cersei watched her son and felt the familiar mix of pride and fear. He was her creation. He was her weapon. He was also a fire she might not always be able to control. Go, she told him sharp. You have a crown to wear. Let the realm see you steady. Joffrey hesitated, then spun on his heel and stalked out, cloak flaring. When he was gone, the solar felt colder. Cersei looked at Petyr. The gold cloaks, she said. They moved when I commanded. Your coin holds. Petyr bowed slightly. As long as you keep paying, he said. Cersei's mouth tightened. She hated needing men like him. She hated that gold ruled more surely than blood. She looked at Varys. And the witnesses? She asked. Varys' smile was mild. Some can be frightened, he said. Some can be bought. Some... He tilted his head. Some have inconvenient tongues. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Remove them. Varys bowed. As you wish, Your Grace. The words were sweet. The meaning was poison. Cersei stared at the map again, seeing not streets, but lines of control. Choke points, ways to tighten a fist around the city's throat. Stark had dared speak in public. Now she would answer in public too, with fear. Hours blurred in the dark. Ned did not know if it was day or night. The dungeon had its own time, measured in dripping water and the slow ache of muscles locked in awkward positions. When footsteps came, he tensed, expecting another guard, another shove, another sneer. Instead, Varys' voice slid into the cell like smoke. "My lord," it murmured. Ned opened his eyes. The eunuch crouched outside the bars, face lit by torchlight, expression gentle. "You have come to gloat," Ned said, voice hoarse. Varys' brows lifted slightly. "Gloat? No," he sighed. "Though I suppose some might find this inevitable." Ned's jaw clenched. "Then why are you here?" Varys leaned closer, hands folded. "Because you have done something very dangerous," he said softly. "And because I am fond of the realm." Ned laughed once, bitter. The sound echoed off stone. "Fond," he repeated. Varys' eyes did not flinch. "You spoke Stannis' name in the throne room," he said. "You named the truth before men who will now spread it, no matter how many tongues are cut." Ned's throat tightened. "Good," he rasped. Varys watched him a moment. "Do you know what Cersei will do now?" he asked. Ned stared. "Whatever it takes," he said. Varys nodded. "Yes," he murmured. "Whatever it takes. She will not merely defend her son's claim. She will punish the realm for doubting it." Ned's fingers twitched against the rope. "My daughters," he said, voice tightening. "Where are they?" Varys' gaze slid away for a fraction of a heartbeat, and that tiny movement told Ned more than any words. "Sansa is safe," Varys said carefully. "In the Queen's care." Ned's mouth tasted like ash. "And Arya?" Varys sighed. "Arya's not where they would like her to be." Ned's heartbeat surged. Relief and fear tangled. "She's alive," he whispered. "As far as I know," Varys said. Ned leaned forward as much as the rope allowed. "Help her," he said, voice fierce. "Help them. Help them get out." Varys' face softened, almost genuinely. "My lord," he said quietly, "if I move too openly, I will lose the ability to move at all." Ned's eyes narrowed. "Then move quietly." Varys gave a small, sad smile. "That is what I do best." Ned held his gaze. "You said you serve the realm," he said. "Prove it." Varys' eyes glittered. "I am trying," he murmured. A rat scurried along the wall. Ned watched it, absurdly jealous of its freedom. Varys' voice lowered further. "Stannis will come," he said. "Your words will reach him if they have not already. But Stannis is unforgiving. He will not be kind to those who waver." Ned's mouth tightened. "The realm needs law," he said. Not kindness." Varys studied him. "Sometimes the realm needs both," he murmured. "Sometimes it needs a gentle hand to keep it from breaking." Ned's eyes flashed. "Gentleness built this?" he snapped, gesturing at the bars, at the dungeon. "Gentleness let children be born of incest and placed on a throne?" Varys' smile faded. "No," he said softly. "Gentleness did not." They sat in silence a moment, the torchlight flickering. Then Varys said, "Cersei will want you to confess." Ned's laugh was harsh. "I will not." Varys' gaze sharpened. "She will use your daughters," he said. The words landed like a blow. Ned's chest tightened until he could barely breathe. "You must think," Varys said quietly. "Not as a lord. Not as a man of honor. As a father." "Nah, that'd be." Ned stared at him, fury rising. "Do not speak to me of fatherhood," he snarled. "You." Varys' eyes hardened suddenly, and for a heartbeat the softness vanished, revealing something colder beneath. "Fatherhood is not only blood," he said. "It is protection. It is sacrifice. It is choosing what hurts you less than it hurts them." Ned's breath shook. He wanted to smash Varys' calm face. He wanted to pull his own hands free and tear down the bars. He could do none of it. Varys' voice softened again. "You have given the realm a weapon," he said. "But the realm may demand a price." Ned swallowed hard. "What price?" he whispered, though he already knew. Varys' gaze held his. "Your pride," he said. "Your reputation. Your life, perhaps. Or..." He paused, and the pause was cruel. "Or your daughter's lives." Ned closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his lids, he saw Sansa's red hair. He saw Arya's fierce grin. He saw them as children in Winterfell's yard, laughing, chasing each other through snow. He opened his eyes, and the dungeon's damp air filled his lungs. "I will not let them die for my honor," he said, voice breaking on the word honor. Varys' expression softened with something like relief. "Good," he murmured. "Then perhaps you understand King's Landing a little better now." Ned's hands clenched against the rope until his wrists bled again. "Help Arya," he said again, voice raw. "Swear it." Varys bowed his head slightly. "I will do what I can," he said. Then he rose, smoothing his robes as if he had not been kneeling in filth. "Sleep, my lord," he whispered. "If you can." He turned and vanished into the shadows. Ned stared after him, heart heavy as stone. Above, the city whispered his words. Below, he sat in darkness, and the realm began to turn. Stable yards smelled like horses and sweat and straw dot. It was the closest thing to honesty Arya had found in this castle. Animals that didn't pretend. They kicked when they were frightened. They bit when they were angry. They didn't smile while sharpening knives. Arya crouched behind a stack of barrels, heart hammering. Dirt smeared her cheeks. Her hair hung in tangles. She had stolen a cap from a boy in the kitchens and shoved it low over her brow. She looked like a rat. Good. Rats survived. She watched through a crack between the barrels. Yorn stood near a wagon, black cloak flapping in the wind, his face weathered and hard. He was arguing with a gold cloak captain, voice low but fierce. "The watch has business," Yorn growled. "We're leaving." The gold cloak captain, thick-necked, sour-faced, snorted. "No one leaves without the Queen's word," he said. Yorn spat in the mud. "The Queen ain't my commander." The captain's hand went to his sword. "You'll mind your mouth, Crow." Yorn leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "And you'll mind yours," he said softly. "Or I'll feed it to the horses." The two men stared at each other, tension sharp. Arya's stomach twisted. If the gates were locked, she was trapped. If the watch couldn't leave, there would be no way out. Unless she made one. A stable boy ran past, carrying a saddle. Arya grabbed his sleeve as he passed, yanking him into the shadow behind the barrels. The boy yelped. Arya clapped a hand over his mouth, dagger pressed lightly against his ribs. "Be quiet," she hissed. The boy's eyes went wide. He nodded frantically. Arya released his mouth slightly. "Who's in charge of the gates?" she whispered. The boy swallowed, voice trembling. "The gold cloaks," he whispered back. "They say the Queen's ordered. No one leaves. Not even..." His eyes flicked to Yoren. "Not even the watch." Arya's jaw tightened. "Where's the other gate?" she demanded. The boy blinked. "What?" "The postern gate," Arya snapped. "The small one, for servants." The boy hesitated, confused. Arya pressed the dagger a fraction closer. "Down past the kennels," the boy whispered quickly. "But there's guards. Always guards." Arya's mind raced. Kennels. Dogs. Guards. She could slip past dogs if she had meat, but she didn't. She could slip past guards if they weren't looking, but guards were always looking now. A shout rose from the yard. Arya peeked again. Yoren had stepped closer to the captain. "I've got boys here," he growled, jerking his head toward a few black brothers who stood nearby. We're taking recruits north. That's the king's command. The king is a boy, the captain sneered. And the queen says? Yoren's hand shot out, grabbing the captain's collar, pulling him close. Listen, he snarled. I don't give a piss about your queen. I don't give a piss about your boy king. I give a piss about keeping my brothers alive and getting out of this stinking city before it eats us. Nunti. The captain's eyes widened. His men shifted. Hands went to hilts. Arya's heart hammered harder. If swords came out here, she'd be caught in the middle. She looked at the boy she held. He was trembling. Run, Arya whispered, shoving him away. And don't say you saw me. If you do, I'll find you. The boy nodded wildly and fled. Arya took a breath, then slipped out from behind the barrels, moving low, weaving between horses and posts. She kept her head down, cap low, trying to look like any other stable rat. She edged closer to the wagon where the Black brothers stood. One of them, young, with a patchy beard, glanced down at her, frowning. Arya looked up, eyes sharp. She began, then stopped. If she said her name, she was dead. Yoren's head snapped toward her as if he felt her presence. His eyes narrowed. For a heartbeat he stared. Then his expression shifted. Recognition, perhaps, or something like it. He had seen her before, in the streets, when Ned had spoken to him. He had heard the name. Yoren's jaw clenched. He looked back at the gold cloak captain, then at Arya, then back again. His mind worked quickly behind his rough face. He let go of the captain's collar with a shove. Fine, he spat. We'll wait. The captain straightened, smoothing his cloak, glaring. You'll wait, he agreed smugly. And you'll do it quiet. Yoren turned away, muttering curses, and strode toward the wagon. As he passed Arya, his hand shot out, grabbing her shoulder and yanking her close as if she were a troublesome boy. Get in, he growled under his breath, voice so low only she could hear. Arya's eyes widened. Why? Get in the wagon, Yoren hissed. If you want to live. Arya's throat tightened. She hesitated only a heartbeat, then slipped under the wagon's canvas, crawling into darkness that smelled of wood and sweat and old straw. Yoren climbed up, slapping the canvas down. Move, he called to his brothers, loud enough for the gold cloaks to hear. We'll wait. Under the canvas, Arya curled into a corner, heart pounding so hard she thought it would give her away. She didn't know if Yoren was saving her for her father's sake, or because he hated lions, or because some part of him still remembered honor. She didn't care. For the first time since the shouting began, she felt a thin thread of hope. Now she just had to hold on to it long enough, not to strangle. Renly stood on the balcony as if it were his own stage, goblet in hand. The city sprawled beneath him like a toy. King's Landing at dusk was almost beautiful, rooftops turning purple, lanterns flickering to life, the river catching the last light like a ribbon of molten gold. From up here, the filth of Flea Bottom was merely shadow, the stench of piss and smoke hidden by distance. Loras Tyrell stood beside him, posture straight, armor gleaming even in dimming light. Where Renly looked like a lord at leisure, Loras looked like a knight in a song, jaw set, eyes sharp. They say Stark shouted it, Loras said, voice tight. Stannis, in the throne room. Renly took a sip of wine, savoring it. So I hear, he said lightly. Leave it to Stark to swing a sword made of words. Loras frowned. This is not amusing. Renly glanced sideways at him. Loras's mouth was a hard line, his fingers clenched around the stone railing as if he wanted to crush it. Renly felt a flicker of warmth at that. Loras cared. Loras took things seriously. It was one of his charms, in a world full of men who pretended nothing mattered until it did. Oh, it's amusing, Renly said. It's also inconvenient. Loras's eyes narrowed. Inconvenient? Renly waved his goblet toward the city. People like simple stories, he said. A handsome young king, a grieving mother, A wicked traitor hand. Easy. Neat. Now Stark has gone and made it complicated. Loras leaned closer. Stannis will use this, he said. Renly's smile thinned. Stannis would use a fart if it smelled lawful, he murmured. Loras's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but it vanished quickly. He will claim the throne, Loras said. He already has, Renly replied. He stared out at the city, eyes half-lidded. In his own mind, at least. Loras's voice dropped. And what about you? Renly's fingers tightened on his goblet. There it was, the question beneath every conversation since Robert died. He had tried to laugh it away, to flirt around it, to pretend the world would naturally turn toward him because it always had. But Stark's declaration had changed the air. It had made law visible, made it a thing people could point to. Law was Stannis' favorite weapon. Renly hated weapons that were not beautiful. He turned his head, looking at Loras properly. What about me? He asked, voice soft. Loras's eyes held his. You have friends, Loras said. You have charm. You have the reach if you want it. My father. Renly lifted a hand. Your father wants a crown for your sister, he said with a fondness that did not quite hide the bitterness. And why shouldn't he? Crowns are shiny. Loras's cheeks flushed. My father wants what is best for the realm, he said, though even he sounded unconvinced. Renly laughed quietly. Of course, he murmured. He looked out again. Far off, smoke rose from somewhere near the river. A fire, perhaps. The city's first taste of chaos. Stark had been bold. Too bold. And now Stark sat in a cell, if the whispers were true. Renly took another sip of wine, slower this time. He could picture Stannis' face when he heard. That stiff jaw, those eyes that looked like they'd been carved from salt. Stannis would not laugh. Stannis would not hesitate. Stannis would march on King's Landing like a man marching to a funeral, certain the dead belonged in the ground. Renly didn't want a funeral. He wanted a feast. Pack, Renly said suddenly, turning from the railing. Loras blinked. What? What? Renly smiled, bright again, as if nothing had weighed on him at all. We're leaving, he said. Tonight. Loras's eyes widened. Leaving? To where? Renly's grin sharpened. Somewhere with fewer lions, he said. Somewhere where a man can breathe without tasting treason in the air. Loras hesitated. Renly. Renly stepped closer, lowering his voice. Stark's words will pull Stannis like a hook, he murmured. And Cersei will tighten her grip. This city is about to become a trap. I do not intend to be caught in it. Loras's jaw tightened. And what will you do? Renly leaned in, close enough that his breath brushed Loras' ear. What I always do, he whispered. Make friends, gather strength, smile. His voice softened. And decide whether the law matters more than the man who can win. Loras's eyes flickered, troubled. Stannis is your brother. Renly's smile held, but something behind it cooled. So was Robert, he said quietly. And Robert never loved Stannis. Not really. He straightened. Come. Loras followed, though unease shadowed his face. Renly left the balcony behind, leaving the city to its smoke and whispers. Behind him, King's Landing twinkled like jewels scattered on dirt. And somewhere far below, a man in chains waited for the realm to decide whether truth could keep him alive. In the Ravenry, the air was thick with feathers and ink. The birds rustled in their cages, black eyes bright, beaks tapping impatiently. Ravens were creatures of messages and misfortune, and this castle fed them constantly. A young maester worked quickly, fingers stained, tying thin scrolls to legs. His movements were careful, too careful. He kept glancing toward the door, where a gold cloak stood like a threat made flesh. Varys watched from the shadows. His presence felt more than seen. He did not speak. He did not need to. The maesters fear did the speaking for him. Is that all? The gold cloak demanded. The maester swallowed. Yes, he lied, voice thin. The gold cloak's eyes narrowed. The queen said no ravens leave without her seal. The maester nodded quickly. None will. None have. Another lie, trembling. Varys' lips curved, faint. Lies were easier when everyone pretended not to notice them. The gold cloak shifted, impatient. Hurry, he barked. This place stinks. The maester hurried, hands shaking as he finished tying a message. The raven in front of him clicked its beak, annoyed. When the gold cloak's gaze flicked to another cage, the maester's fingers slid to a smaller scroll hidden beneath a ledger. It was sealed clumsily, a direwolf stamp imperfect, wax-smeared. The seal would not fool a careful man. But ravens did not care about seals. Ravens cared about flying. Varys stepped closer, silent as a thought. The maester did not look at him, but his breath hitched as if he felt the eunuch's shadow. "You will send that one," Varys murmured, so low only the maester heard. The maester's fingers trembled. "If they find..." Varys' voice was gentle. "If they find it, you will die," he agreed. "If you do not send it, you may die anyway. At least this way, you die for something." The maester's eyes squeezed shut. His lips moved in a silent prayer. Then he tied the hidden scroll to a raven's leg with quick, desperate precision. The gold cloak turned back. "What was that?" The maester jerked, forcing a smile. "Nothing," he squeaked. Varys' smile remained mild. The maester opened the cage door. The raven flapped out, wings beating hard, escaping into the open space of the ravenry. The gold cloak watched it suspiciously. "Where's that one going?" The maester's voice shook. Just to Maidenpool," he lied, naming a place close enough to sound harmless. Varys' gaze followed the raven as it climbed into the dusk, slipping through the open hatch to the sky beyond the castle. He imagined its flight path, out over the city, over the black water, northward perhaps, toward the riverlands, toward a boy with a crown of wolves, or east, toward a bleak island of dragons, or both. Messages could be copied. Names could be repeated. Truth, once spoken, had a way of multiplying. The gold cloak grunted. "See that no more go," he warned. The maester nodded frantically. When the gold cloak turned away again, Varys leaned closer to the maester, voice barely a breath. "Well done," he whispered. The maester's eyes shone with tears. "What have I done?" he whispered back, voice breaking. Varys' smile softened, almost kind. "You have given the realm a chance," he said. Then he drifted away, leaving the maester trembling among the cages. Above the Red Keep, a raven cut through the twilight, black wings beating, carrying a direwolf's imperfect seal. And somewhere in the north, a son would soon learn his father had screamed the truth in a lion's den. The fire in Winterfell's great hall burned clean, bright, smelling of pine rather than smoke. Outside, snow drifted against the walls, silent and steady. The north did not roar. It endured. Robb Stark stood beneath the stone wolves of his ancestors, a letter in his hand. The parchment was creased from being opened too quickly. His fingers clenched it as if he could crush the words into something that hurt less. Catelyn Stark stood beside him, her face pale, her eyes sharp with grief and fury. She had slept little since she'd returned. She had moved through Winterfell like a ghost with a mother's eyes. Maester Luwin waited nearby, hands folded, expression grave. He watched Robb the way a man watched ice cracking, knowing the sound might come suddenly. Around them, northern lords gathered in furs and leather, their breath visible in the hall's cold air. Great John Umber loomed like a bear, eyes fierce. Roose Bolton stood quiet, pale and watchful. Rickard Karstark's face was carved with anger. Grey Wind paced at Robb's feet, restless, ears flat, as if the direwolf could smell the blood in the words. Robb read aloud, voice steady until it wasn't. "Father named Stannis Baratheon the lawful king," he read, eyes flicking across the ink. "Before the court, He was seized. There was fighting. The queen holds Sansa. Arya is missing. Robb's voice caught on Arya's name. For a heartbeat, his face looked younger. The boy who used to chase his sisters through the yard. Then his jaw tightened, and the boy vanished, replaced by the Lord. He spoke it aloud. Catelyn whispered, voice trembling. Ned. Robb swallowed hard. He did what was right, he said, though his eyes shone with something like pain. He did what he always does. Greatjon Umber slammed a fist on the table. Right? He roared. Right don't save him from lions? We should ride south and tear them apart. Murmurs of agreement rose, low and dangerous. Roose Bolton's pale eyes flicked to Robb. The law, he said softly. Maybe on Stannis' side, but swords decide more than parchment. Rickard Karstark's voice was a growl. They took our lord, he said. They took his blood. If the boy king sits the throne, then we take his head. Nunday. Dumna. Catelyn's gaze snapped to them. Careful, she warned. Words are wind, but they can still cut. This is not only vengeance. This is... Her voice broke. This is our children. Robb looked down at Grey Wind. The wolf stared back, eyes bright as ice. Robb lifted his head. His voice rang through the hall. Firm now. My father named the rightful king, he said. He did it before witnesses. That means the realm has heard. That means we are not rebels for riding south. We are loyal. We ride for the law. Greatjon snorted. Law, he spat. I ride for blood. Robb met his gaze without flinching. Then ride for both, he said. The hall quieted. The northern lords looked at him, measuring. He felt their eyes like weight. He felt the weight of Winterfell itself, of generations of Stark men who had led and died. He thought of his father in chains. He thought of Sansa in the queen's hands. He thought of Arya missing, somewhere in that pit of a city. His throat tightened. He forced it open. We call the banners, Robb said. The words were simple. They hit the hall like a drumbeat. Greatjon grinned fierce. Hey, he rumbled. Roose Bolton nodded slowly, calculating. Rickard Karstark's eyes gleamed with promised violence. Catelyn's hand moved to Robb's arm, gripping, as if grounding him. Her eyes held his, full of fear and pride and sorrow. Send ravens, Robb said to Maester Luwin, to every house sworn to us. Tell them the hand has been seized. Tell them the queen holds his daughter. Tell them. His voice hardened. Tell them the north rides. Maester Luwin bowed. At once, my lord. Robb looked around the hall, meeting each lord's gaze. We ride not as rebels, he said again. We ride as Starks. We ride as men who keep faith with the realm, because my father kept faith even when it cost him blood. Daddy. Grey Wind let out a low growl as if agreeing. Outside, snow fell, silent and relentless. Inside, war began, not with a shout, but with a son lifting his head and choosing to be what his father had been, a Stark. Barristan had stood in battlefields where arrows fell like rain. He had stood before mad kings and smiling kings and kings who were both. He had never felt so uncertain as he did standing outside a cell door in a damp corridor, listening to the drip of water and the distant hum of a castle pretending it was not at war with itself. The gold cloak down the hall watched him, wary, as if unsure whether a white cloak meant protection or threat. Barristan kept his hands clasped behind his back, posture perfect. A soldier's discipline holding him upright while his mind churned. He had seen Stark fall. He had seen the parchment torn. He had heard the name spoken, Stannis, sharp and clear as a trumpet. He had seen Cersei's eyes in that moment, the flash of fear before she smothered it. He had also heard Joffrey's command, kill him. He had obeyed the Queen's counter-command, stand down. Obedience had been easy for most of his life. It had been the spine of his honor. Now it felt like a chain tightening. Inside the cell, there was movement, slow, pained. Stark was alive. For now. Barristan could not go in. He had no authority. The queen had taken authority and wrapped it around her son like a cloak. The boy wore it badly, but he wore it. Barristan's jaw clenched. A knight of the Kingsguard was sworn to protect the king. But what was a king? A crown? A throne? A name? Or a law older than any of them? He remembered Robert, laughing, slapping Barristan's shoulder hard enough to bruise. He remembered Robert saying, half drunk, "You're a good man, Selmy. Too good for this place." He remembered Ned's eyes in the throne room, steady even as spears closed in. Honor, ... Honor was not easy in King's Landing. Honor was a candle in a storm. Footsteps approached. Barristan turned his head. A man in red came down the corridor, one of the Queen's household guards, face smug. "Sir Barristan," the man said, nodding with false respect. "Her Grace wonders why you linger here." Barristan's gaze was cold. "I am sworn to the king," he said. The guard's smile widened. "Then you should be with him," he said. "The king is above, with his mother." Barristan's fingers tightened behind his back. "And Lord Stark?" he asked. The guard's eyes flicked to the cell door, then back. "A traitor," he said. "A man who spoke lies. The queen says he will confess soon enough." Barristan's jaw tightened. "If he does not?" The guard shrugged. "Then the king will have justice." Justice. The word tasted wrong in this corridor. Barristan stared at the guard until the man shifted, uncomfortable. "I will go," Barristan said finally, voice flat. The guard bowed slightly, satisfied, and turned away. Barristan remained still for a moment longer, eyes on the cell door. He could almost imagine Stark inside, sitting in darkness, thinking of snow and wolves. Barristan could almost imagine the man's stubborn refusal to bend, even when bending might save his life. Barristan's throat tightened. He had served kings who deserved none of his loyalty. He had served a madman who burned men alive and called it justice. He had told himself the Kingsguard served the crown, not the man. But the crown now sat on a boy's head who screamed for blood. Barristan turned slowly and walked away from the cell door. Each step felt heavier than armor. Above, in the halls of power, a boy king raged. Below, in the damp dark, a man who had spoken truth waited. And somewhere between them, a white cloak began to feel like a shroud. Sansa walked as if she were in a dream she couldn't wake from. The corridor stretched too long, the torches too bright. The gold cloaks around her moved like walls, their boots loud on stone. She tried to keep her chin up. She tried to remember how queens in songs walked, graceful, composed. Her hands trembled inside her sleeves. They led her into a chamber hung with Lannister tapestries, lions rampant, gold thread catching torchlight. The room smelled of perfume and polished wood. It was warm, too warm. Like a cage meant to feel like comfort. Cersei waited by the window, back straight, hands folded. She turned as Sansa entered, and her face softened into a smile that looked practiced. "Sweet girl," Cersei said. "Come." Sansa's throat tightened. She took a step forward, then another, until she stood a few paces from the queen. A servant girl held a tray of sweets nearby, honey cakes, candied fruit, bright and childish. Sansa's stomach turned. She couldn't imagine eating. Cersei studied her, eyes sharp beneath the smile. "You look frightened," she observed. Sansa forced herself to speak. "There was shouting," she said. "I heard." Cersei's smile did not falter. "Your father is confused," she said gently. "Grief does strange things. He has said terrible things." Sansa's heart pounded. "My father wouldn't lie," she whispered. Cersei's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "Lies," she murmured, as if tasting the word. "Sometimes men convince themselves they speak truth." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "He accused me. He accused my children. He accused the king. Sansa's breath hitched. The king, she repeated, as if the words might make sense if she said them. Cersei's hand lifted and touched Sansa's cheek, fingers cool. Joffrey is king, she said, and you are to be his queen. Sansa's skin crawled under the touch. The dream she had carried for months, being queen, wearing a crown, living in songs, shivered and cracked. The boy she had thought was a prince had shouted for her father's death. She could still hear it, sharp and ugly, echoing in her mind. Cersei's voice softened further, almost kind. I know this is frightening, she said, but you are safe here, with me, as long as you behave. The last words were gentle, but their meaning was steel. Sansa swallowed. Where is my father? She asked, voice small. Cersei's hand dropped. He is resting, she said. He will be questioned. And if he is wise, he will admit his mistake. Sansa's eyes burned. He did something, she whispered. I don't know what, but he did something. And everyone is afraid. Cersei's smile sharpened. Everyone should be afraid, she said softly. This realm has been held together by strong hands. Your father tried to pry those hands loose. Sansa's hands clenched harder. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. She wanted to go home. But there was no home here. Only this room and this queen and the knowledge that she was a piece on a board. Cersei gestured to the sweets. Eat, she said. It will calm you. Sansa stared at the tray. Honey cakes. The smell made her throat tighten with sudden longing for Winterfell's kitchens, for the laughter of her siblings, for the sound of her father's boots. She reached out with shaking fingers and took a honey cake. She did not eat it. Cersei watched, satisfied anyway. Good girl, she murmured. Sansa stood there, holding the sweet like a symbol of her own helplessness, and tried not to cry. In the hallway outside, the gold cloaks waited. And somewhere far below, her father sat in darkness, thinking of her, while she stood in light and understood for the first time that songs lie. The city devoured truth the way it devoured everything else, quickly, hungrily, and without manners. By nightfall, the story had reached Flea Bottom, twisted into shapes it had never been, and yet the heart of it remained stubbornly alive. They whispered around cookfires and in the corners of alehouses. They whispered in brothels and bakeries, in the shadow of the great sept and under the rotting beams of slums. They whispered because whispering was safer than shouting, and because fear made tongues itch. A wolf named another king, a man said, eyes wide, hands gesturing as if painting the scene. In the throne room, called the Lion Queen a whore. A woman hissed, clutching her baby closer. Quiet, she warned. You want your tongue gone? The man glanced at the gold cloaks patrolling the street, spears gleaming in lamplight, and lowered his voice. Stannis, he whispered, like it was a spell. Stannis Baratheon. A thin septon passing by paused, turning his head. His eyes flicked to the man, then to the woman, then to the fire. His mouth tightened. He did not speak, but his silence said enough. They say the queen tore the king's will, a boy whispered, face smeared with soot. Tore it right in two. An older man snorted. Paper tears, he muttered. So do men. But not words, the boy insisted, eyes bright. Words don't tear. A gold cloak barked at them to move along. The group scattered, muttering, faces wary. The city did what it always did when power walked nearby. It bent without breaking, then straightened again the moment the boots passed. In an alley, two women leaned close, voices low. You hear what happened? One breathed. They say the hand called the king's children bastards. The other woman laughed, harsh. Ain't they all bastards? She said. Kings, lords, same stink under the silk. But if it's true, the first woman began, eyes fearful. If it's true, the second said, voice dropping, Then the lions ain't lions. They're rats with gold teeth. And rats get drowned when the sea rises. Somewhere else in a tavern, a drunk man slammed his mug down and shouted, "Stannis!" before his friend dragged him down by the collar, hissing curses. The drunk laughed. Sloppy. "What? Ain't treason if it's true?" A gold cloak heard. The spear butt came down. The drunk man's teeth scattered on the floor like dice. The tavern went silent. But even silence carried the story. In the Great Sept, candles were lit for the king's soul. The faith did not speak openly yet. The High Septon had always been careful. But Septons and Septas had eyes, and some had been in the throne room that day. They had seen Stark's seal. They had seen Cersei tear it. They had felt the room's pause. Faith was not a sword, but it could cut. In the Red Keep, the Queen tried to clamp the city's mouth shut with fear. In Flea Bottom, fear only made the whispering sweeter. The realm had heard the word Stannis. Now it tasted it, rolled it on its tongue, wondered if it would choke. And somewhere, beyond the city walls, ravens flew, carrying more than ink, carrying a moment, a pause, a crack in a lie. At dawn, the Red Keep pretended it was normal. The yard rang with steel as gold cloaks drilled, spears thrusting in practiced rhythm. The captain's shouts cracked through the cold air. Boots pounded sand. Men sweated as if sweat could wash away the taste of what they'd done. But every so often, a man's eyes would flick toward the castle proper, toward the tower where the Queen sat, toward the dungeon beneath. Nervous glances. Quick looks. The kind of looks that said a man had seen something he couldn't forget. Janos Slynt watched from a raised platform, arms crossed, cheeks red from cold and pride. He looked pleased with himself, like a man who had just made a bet and won. He had won coin, favor, perhaps a title. He had also won a place in a story that might get him killed if the wrong king came. Petyr stood nearby, hands clasped, smiling mildly. He looked like a man enjoying a morning stroll, except his eyes never stopped moving. "Fine work," Petyr said, voice light. Janos puffed slightly. "They do what they're told," he said. Petyr's smile sharpened. "Most men do," he murmured. Janos glanced at him, suspicious. "You think I did right?" he asked, needing the reassurance like a child needs a pat. Petyr took a slow breath, as if considering. "You did what was necessary," he said. "You chose the side that holds the city. That's what matters." Janos's grin widened. "Hey," he said. "City's mine, when it comes down to it." Petyr's eyes glittered. "For now," he said, though he did not add the words aloud. A man in the drill line stumbled, spear slipping in his sweaty grip. The captain hit him with the flat of a blade, snarling. "Again!" The man flinched and obeyed. Petyr watched, expression thoughtful. "They hesitated yesterday," he said casually. Janos' smile faltered. "Who?" he asked. "The men," Petyr said, nodding toward the line. When Stark spoke, Janos' jaw tightened. "They didn't know what was what," he said quickly. "Stark came in with paper and northern honor, confused them." Petyr hummed. "Confusion is dangerous," he murmured. Janos scowled. "They won't hesitate again," he said, more to himself than Petyr. "They know who pays." Petyr's smile returned. "Good," he said softly, "because there will be more tests." Janos' eyes narrowed. "What tests?" Petyr shrugged lightly. "Stannis," he said, as if naming the weather. Janos spat into the sand. "That grim bastard won't dare come," he said. "Not without more men than he's got." Petyr's gaze stayed on the drilling line. "Men gather to banners," he said. "And banners gather to stories." Janos frowned, not understanding. Petyr continued, voice easy. "Stark gave the realm a story, a lawful king, a torn will, a brave hand dragged away in chains." Janos' face reddened. "So we cut tongues," he snapped. "We kill the story." Pettier's smile was faint. "Stories are hard to kill," he said. "Even harder when they are true enough to sound believable." Janos's hand went to his belt unconsciously. "You told me he was done," he muttered. Pettier's eyes flicked to him, sharp for a heartbeat. "Oh, he is," he said softly. "Stark is done, but what he said..." He shrugged again. "Words don't stay caged." Janos scowled, uneasy. The captain's shouts rang. Spears thrust again and again as if repetition could drive doubt out. Pettier watched the men until the drill line blurred into rhythm. Then he turned away, still smiling, leaving Janos staring after him with a growing sense that he had bought something expensive he didn't understand. In the sand below, a bloodstain from yesterday darkened as dew fell on it. It would not wash away easily. The priest's footsteps were soft, careful. The dungeon did not welcome holiness. The stone drank prayers like it drank water, slowly, grudgingly, leaving the air damp. Ned lifted his head when the man stopped outside his bars. The priest wore a simple robe with a 7-pointed star stitched at the chest. His face was young, too young for this place, eyes tired. "My lord," the priest said quietly. Ned stared at him, wary. "Who sent you?" he rasped. The priest held up a cup of water. "No one," he said. "Not officially." His gaze flicked down the corridor, then back. "I was in the throne room." Ned's throat tightened. "Then you heard." The priest nodded slowly. "I heard," he said. "And I saw the seal, and I saw the queen tear it." Ned's breath came out rough. "Then you know." "I know what you said," the priest corrected gently. "Truth is harder, but I believe you meant it." Ned's mouth twisted. "Meaning it won't save me?" The priest's eyes softened. "No," he admitted. "It may, damn you." He slid the cup through the bars, careful not to touch Ned. Ned stared at it a moment, then leaned forward awkwardly, drinking. The water was stale, but it wet his throat, eased the rawness of blood and thirst. When he finished, he set the cup down, hands trembling. "Why are you here?" Ned asked again, quieter. The priest swallowed. "Because the faith has eyes," he said. "And the realm has ears. Men will ask. They will come to us with questions they are too afraid to ask the queen." Ned's gaze sharpened. "And what will you tell them?" The priest hesitated, as if tasting danger. "That a man spoke law in the king's hall," he said softly. "That he was seized. That the queen fears something." Ned's heart thudded. "If you spread this..." The priest's mouth tightened. "If we spread it, we die," he said. "Perhaps. But if we keep silent, we die anyway, in a realm where lies sit a throne." Ned stared at him. The young man's hands were shaking slightly, though he tried to hide it. Courage came in strange forms. Sometimes it wore armor. Sometimes it wore a rough robe and walked into a dungeon. Ned's voice was hoarse. "My daughters," he whispered. "Can you..." The priest's eyes flicked away. "One is held," he said. The other is being hunted." Ned's chest tightened. "Please," he said, and the word tasted like ash. He did not beg. He had never begged. Now he found he could, if it meant his children lived. The priest nodded quickly, as if relieved Ned had said it. "I will pray," he said, "and I will listen." He lowered his voice. "There are men in the sept who do not love lions." Ned's eyes burned. "Thank you," he whispered, and hated the helplessness in it. The priest bowed his head, murmuring a quick prayer to the father for justice, to the mother for mercy, to the warrior for strength. When he finished, he looked up, eyes shining. "Hold fast, my lord," he said softly. Ned's mouth twisted. "That's easy to say from outside the bars." The priest's face tightened. "I know," he said, "but I saw your face when you spoke. You were not afraid." Ned almost laughed. A dry sound. "I was terrified," he admitted. "I still am." The priest blinked, surprised. Ned's voice dropped. "Courage isn't not being afraid," he said. "It's being afraid and speaking anyway." The priest swallowed, then nodded slowly, as if taking the lesson into his bones. He stepped back, glancing down the corridor again. "Be careful," Ned warned. The priest gave a small, grim smile. "In King's Landing?" he murmured. "Always." Then he turned and slipped away, footsteps fading into the damp dark. Ned leaned back against the wall, exhausted. The water warmed his belly slightly. The prayer warmed nothing. But the priest's eyes, those eyes that had seen and remembered, warmed something in Ned that had begun to go cold. Witnesses. That was what mattered. Not swords. Not seals. Witnesses. The throne room was quieter now, but quiet did not mean peace. Quiet in the Red Keep was simply the pause between storms. Torches burned low, their flames steady, casting long shadows across the jagged black mass of the Iron Throne. The bloodstains on the floor had been scrubbed, but faint traces remained, darkened patches in stone that refused to forget. Joffrey sat on the throne, shifting, restless, fingers tapping on a sword hilt he did not know how to use. He wore a crown too heavy for him, its points sharp, its gold bright. He looked like a child dressed for a funeral. Cersei stood below, posture perfect, hands folded. If a stranger walked in, they would see a queen composed, unshaken, in control. But the throne room saw more than strangers did. The throne room saw the tiny tension in her shoulders, the way her gaze flicked toward the doors as if expecting ghosts. Barristan stood to the side with the other Kingsguard, white cloak still, faces set. He did not look at Cersei. He did not look at Joffrey. He stared straight ahead, as if by sheer discipline he could avoid being part of what was happening. A messenger knelt before Cersei, breathless. "Your Grace," he said, voice trembling. "There are rumors." Cersei's eyes narrowed. "Rumors," she repeated. The messenger swallowed. "In the city, they speak of the hand's words." Joffrey leaned forward, eyes flashing. "I told you to cut tongues," he snapped. Cersei's gaze flicked up at him, sharp enough to silence him for a heartbeat. Then she looked back at the messenger. "Who speaks?" she asked. "Everyone," the man whispered, and his fear made the word heavier than it should have been. "Small folk, merchants, even..." He hesitated. "Even some lords." Cersei's fingers tightened slightly. "Names," she demanded. The messenger shook. They whisper. They do not speak loud enough to be caught." Joffrey's face twisted. "Then we should make them speak louder," he snarled. "Hang them, all of them." Cersei inhaled slowly. She could feel her son's cruelty like a fire at her back, eager to burn everything. She could use it. She could also be consumed by it. She looked at the Iron Throne, at its black blades, at the way it rose like a promise and a threat. Aegon's throne built from conquered swords. A seat meant to cut those who sat it if they grew too comfortable. Stark had made her uncomfortable. She had torn the will, but she could not tear the memory of it. She could not tear the Septon's wide eyes, the way the room had paused. She could not tear the way some faces in the crowd had looked, hopeful. Hope was dangerous. "Bring me the High Septon," Cersei said suddenly. The messenger blinked. "Your Grace." Cersei's voice was cold. "Bring him," she repeated. "Or bring whichever man he sends to speak for him. I want the faith reminding the city that rebellion is a sin." Joffrey sneered. "The faith," he scoffed. "Old men in robes." Cersei did not look at him. "Old men in robes can turn crowds," she said quietly. "And crowds can tear kings apart." Joffrey's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed, offended. "No one will tear me apart," he snapped. Cersei's smile was thin. "Of course not," she murmured, though she was not speaking to him. Not really. She looked back at the messenger. "Double the patrols," she ordered. "And find the girl." The messenger swallowed. Arya Stark? Cersei's eyes hardened. Yes, she said. The wolf's other cub. The one still loose. No. Ah. The messenger bowed quickly and scurried away. Cersei stood still, listening to the faint crackle of torches. She could feel the castle around her, old and watching. She could feel the city beyond the walls, whispering like a restless sea. Stannis. The name lingered, a shadow that wouldn't leave. She had always known Stannis would be a problem if he ever dared reach for the throne. But she had counted on him being ignored, unloved, forgotten. She had counted on the realm preferring her golden son to a grim man on a bleak island. Now Stark had forced the realm to look. Cersei's nails dug into her palm. She kept her face smooth. "We will be fine," she whispered to herself, so softly no one heard. Above her, Joffrey shifted on the throne, bored, petulant, dangerous. To the side, Barristan stood like a statue, but statues could fall. And deep beneath them, in a cell of damp stone, Ned sat with raw wrists and a broken will, and yet the words he had spoken still moved through the realm, unstoppable as winter. Somewhere far away, ravens beat black wings over snow and sea. Somewhere far away, banners would soon rise. And in the throne room, the air tasted faintly of blood, even after it had been scrubbed. Because blood did not wash away. Neither did truth.